Hey everybody, welcome back to our second video. In our last video, we spent time reflecting on the questions of identity, belonging, and purpose, and how they can serve as lenses for us to understand the plethora of subjects that emerging adults are trying to negotiate between ages 18 and 30. Now, I want to take this a little bit further and give you an example of how we've tried to apply this, because sometimes that can seem really theoretical, but I want you to know that we actually are trying to implement these questions of identity, belonging, and purpose as lenses as we try to understand emerging adults. And so we came up with what we call the emerging adult vignette. You'll actually see it in the book that you're reading that I wrote called Young Adult Ministry Now. But let me give you a little backstory of where this came from. So one of the things that we just finished up just this last year was a 5-year research project on young adults and congregations that was graciously funded by the Lilly Endowment. Over the course of 5 years, we worked with over 40 churches, hundreds of leaders, and thousands of emerging adults, as we really started to think about, well, what is the relationship between local congregations and in emerging adults. Now, one of the things that we had them do, an exercise that we gave the leaders of these churches to do, which were made up of senior leaders, people that worked with young adults, and actually some emerging adults themselves. We had them go back to their communities with a list of questions and ask emerging adults from their community about their lives. Okay. Now, I have to tell you something between you and me. Like when I asked, especially these ministry leaders, to go back and talk with emerging adults in their communities, I got a little bit of a pushback. They were offended. They kind of rolled their eyes because they said to me, well, why are you making us do this? We know our emerging adults. Like, it just seems like sort of ministry 101 that you're actually going back and having us do this. But they capitulated because we were the host and we asked them to do this. And so they went back and they actually talked with emerging adults. And what we had them do is that we had them talk to a number of adults in their communities, and then write a summary page as to what they heard from emerging adults. Now, the questions that we gave them were focused on their identity and belonging and purpose. And so they sent these one-page summaries back to us. Now, we regathered as a cohort to talk about it. And what was interesting is that the leaders from these churches came back blown away. They were like, we had no idea. I thought I knew you, but I didn't. Remember the closeness bias, right? I didn't realize that your life was so different than mine, intragenerational speed, okay? So I collected then these 41-page summaries that each of these teams put together. And then I went through them and tried in a systematic way to summarize these 40 summaries to come up with this emerging adult vignette. So what this vignette is it's the compilation of hundreds of emerging adults responding to questions that people from their churches asked them about their lives and everything else. And so this is a way I put it in the first person plural of them expressing how they feel about life today. So what I want to do is I just want to read this to you. Now, again, you'll be able to read it in the book. You can go do that, but I would just love to take a minute and read it to you. And I think this is a moment where you can be really efficient and be like, well, I'll go read the book. You can totally do that if that's the way you make meaning. But I kind of want you to just sit with this for a second. Imagine that you're hearing these things, and let's see if we can perhaps allow ourselves to be informed by emerging adults that we've been talking with all over the country. So here we go. Let me read it to you. It goes like this. We're compassionate, loving, creative people, raising more questions than we have answers. It's likely we'll define ourselves more by who we're not than who we are. Our friends notice our abilities, but we still feel like imposters. Often we're guessing and overthinking everything in our world that offers so many options with so few milestones. Community and home are elusive concepts. For us, home is about the people we're with, not the place that we're at. Oftentimes our friends are literally our family, Our best experiences of community have been from high school or college friendships, and we've struggled to find anything close to that kind of connection since. For some of us, a pandemic abruptly cut off those friendships or cut short our options to forge new connections in an isolated and socially distanced time warp. Our search to belong is one of our most pressing quests, greatest stressors, biggest disappointments, and loneliest endeavors. Our friendships change with every move and every marital status update, making us relationally cautious and selectively loyal. We want to make it in this world. A career would be great. Having more options would be better, not because we're unrealistic, but because we're forced to live improvisational lives. We try to do it all in hopes that something might stick. Our uncertainties eclipse our opportunities. Racial, gender, and economic obstacles add to this challenge. Our internal obstacles of self-doubt and perfectionism are just as real. We feel behind, always trying to catch up in some part of our lives. Someday we hope to say we're married, a parent, a homeowner, at least part of a neighborhood, successful. Our hopes look like the American dream, but our paths and motivations are different. We're anxious, sometimes at dangerous levels, as the world expects so much of us and we expect so much of ourselves. It seems incredibly easy to let everyone down, even God, who is simultaneously good and vague and distant and caring and confusing. We love our churches who have given us support and hope in our best and worst of times. And we're inspired when they resist consumerism, advocate for reverse climate change, address mental health, and seek to help others. Still, we find churches confusing. They don't like our friends or just can't seem to see them the way we do. They're uncomfortable with gray area topics, but that's where we live. We see a disparity in the way they treat gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, and ability level, and we don't understand why their traditions matter if they hurt people. Sometimes it's hard to break in. We wish they'd admit they're working through their own stuff rather than just trying to fix us. At times we've been hurt by them, and we just need them to know that. Offering an apology would mean more to us than offering another program. Remember that our lives are emotions, so we may not stay long. No offense. Churches, don't give up on us. You offer good news to us, and we can offer good news to you. So when I read this in certain settings where there are emerging adults in the room, it's pretty common to see tears. Not because I've said everything right or that there's anything special about that vignette, but I think sometimes when we listen well and we can articulate back to those that we are serving phrases, concepts, perspectives, emotions that resonate with them, they feel seen. They feel validated. They feel a little bit more understood. And isn't that what ministry is about? So often we try to get people to see things our way, and we don't take this time to actually listen and to see things from the perspectives of the people that we're trying to serve. That takes time. It's not efficient. It takes heart, sometimes scary for us, which we'll talk about later. It's really, really important though. So as you think about this, I mean, here's some self-questions for you. How can we understand emerging adults on their terms, not ours, before we rush off to make a program for them? Maybe we just need to find out what they really need. And then personally, what struck you about this vignette? Maybe you can relate to it. Maybe you identify as an emerging adult, and some of these really ring really true. And I just want you to take these to your discussion working groups. You're going to get a chance to share it with your smaller group, like what really struck you. And this vignette will become really important later on, because one of the assignments that you have for this course is you're going to go out and you're going to talk with some emerging adults, like I made these ministry leaders do. But what you have that they don't is that you have this vignette. And I'm going to ask you to take this vignette and take it to the emerging adults that you care about and you want to talk with, and just ask them, which phrases really do you resonate with? Which ones not so much? And talk about the ones that are important to them, because as we step closer like that, that's when we really exude and live into and implement empathy. And we begin to listen a little bit more closely about the ways that they say they need us to show up where they need us the most. Hope that's helpful. Peace.